But yeah.
All right, you lucky little fuckers, we are back. Yet again. Are we still here on the Infinity Factory? And one of the most popular guests is back. Chica Bruce, paranormal investigator, time travel babe. Here she is. Once again, Chica, welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Richard.
So I figured that today's show, that we should not... Basically, it's going to be one of those things where we're going to talk about stuff that is going to be incomprehensible to anybody who was not around when the events that we're describing, or going to describe, took place. But come September, when well, first off, there's a disinformation show that's going to air on British television, and probably in September is when that's going to happen. And the first piece of the show, of the six-part series, is going to be on the Montauk Project, the infamous conspiracy theory, the weirdest conspiracy theory of all time.
Now, did you all get that out there in internet land? Because this guy's got a TV show now. It's like a TV series. It's going to be on British television. I think that's awesome, and I'm very excited, not only for yourself but for myself.
Well, you are one of the stars of the first piece, and so again, I figure that if once people have seen this piece, this show will make a lot of sense, and I just figure that we should just let it rip, and then we'll talk about the behind the scenes, and some people will get something out of it, especially those maybe in the Long Island vicinity, and others will get less out of it. But what the fuck? Right? Let's just go with it. So we went out. You arranged for a field trip with cameras to interview some of the main people who were allegedly involved in the Montauk Project.
That is correct.
And based on the Montauk series of books published by Sky Books.
Yes.
So you took me to the home of Stuart Swerdlow, who wrote the latest installment of the Montauk books, Montauk, the Alien Connection, and also to the home of Preston B. Nichols, the
co-author of numerous books with Peter Moon. The first 3 or 4.
For the first 4, and the fourth one being his autobiography, the Adventures
Pleiadian Connection.
Yeah, Adventures in the Pleiades.
Yes.
So it was quite a trip.
Yes, it was.
It was quite a trip, and there's a 9-minute piece that has resulted from this that I think that a lot of people are going to watch, and they're going to think we made it up. I personally think,
Well, that's what you think, and you know, your friend and mine, Glenn Pruitt, who's been on the show, whose father's been accused of having been the director of the project for a decade, who is basically his material accounts for the second half of my book, which I just finally handed in.
Now, this is being published by Sky Books also. We've talked about this one before.
Very close to coming out now, and if you're a conspiracy fan the way I am, if you're a weirdness fan, you know, I've been reading these kinds of books for 15 or more years, and this is by far the weirdest conspiracy book I've ever seen.
You heard it here. You heard it from Chica Bruce that it's the weirdest thing. So I would take this recommendation seriously.
It's true. Sorry. It's very serious. It's serious. But anyway, Glenn says that you got profoundly upset, like energetically upset, by being in the presence of these folks, in particular Preston Nichols. And
what resulted from this, pray tell?
Well, what resulted is, you know, where you had sort of initially been, I think, curious to investigate this thing, you've completely shut down any possibility of what this information represents.
Are you saying that my willing suspension of disbelief has been suspended?
Yes.
All right, well, first off, okay, I read these books when they came out.
Yes.
I have all of them. I think they are wonderful in their comic book metaphysics, as you've heard me describe it before.
That's actually very apt.
Yeah, it is. But anyways, but I mean, I think that, and I don't, I mean, no hostility towards you or any of the other Montauk, the Montauk experiencers. You're not necessarily an experiencer yourself, but an investigator into this. But
yes.
That I'm closed down to it is not accurate, because I was never open to it. I never put a shred of credence in any of this. I think it's interesting. I think their theorizing is interesting, but it's faulty. It's like if your only input for your metaphysics was a stack of Jack Kirby comics from the 1970s, you might come up with something like the Montauk Project. If you were more a part of the world, perhaps you would be less willing to go there. And gee, I mean, just to be perfectly blunt, I mean, I see the Montauk Project as being just something that a few guys made up, and there's this weird thing around it, and you like the books so much, and you're so intrigued by the concepts of the books, which are very interesting.
Yes.
As a kind of science fiction, but as a no. I don't. I'm sorry. I saw absolutely zero evidence that there is any kind of conspiracy theory going on in an underground base in Montauk Point, Long Island, and every bit. I mean, and all the evidence to me points to
totally
just sort of
you.
a bit of nuttiness.
And Glenn Pruitt agrees with you, and and what he's saying is that all this Montauk stuff. If you know a little bit about quantum theory and the math that they do to show that I mean time travel is possible.
Well, theoretically possible is a great deal different from possible. I mean, I mean, you know what I'm saying? It's there's a great leap from theorizing something and actually making this sort of warp drive happen.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And
I think that has to be recognized here.
Yes, it does. But what Glenn is saying, and let me just tell you where I'm at with all this. I just love it because I think it's fascinating, and it is like a comic book. Metaphysics is so aptly put, and really, I just love the cognitive gymnastics involved. And,
good one.
And I just really have a good time with it. I also think that everything is consciousness, and that everything is possible, and it doesn't have to be possible in this particular space-time continuum. And basically, what Glenn is saying, which I find fascinating, is that the Montauk Project, as it is described in the books, in the series, did not happen in the space-time continuum. Happened
that's a cop-out. I mean,
happened in a parallel universe.
Okay, yeah, but in a parallel universe, I'm Emperor Norton, and I've got an 18-inch dick, and it's just, do you know what I'm saying? It's like, and so do you. But I can't, if I can't prove that to you.
Yes.
Don't you think the parallel dimension is just a bit of a cop-out? I mean, come on, it's a feedback loop that doesn't demand proof. It's like, it happened in a parallel universe. What do you want me to do?
Well, maybe
I want you to whip it out, and that's what I think that they were unable to do that weekend.
Where's the
where's in a parallel dimension? Give me a break.
So that's all I can tell you. I'm not up to prove anything. That's the explanation. Take it or leave it, love it or leave it.
Right.
And and I just think I love that even more. It's just like
right. I mean, let's call me a skeptic. I mean, I look at it this way. Once again, this show is going to make very little sense to anybody other than so far but maybe 10 people who were there, or maybe the 20 people who I've shown the video to.
Into it, and then you got me to get all my friends to bare their souls, and then then all the after 5 hours of interviews, the only thing you want to talk about is the sexual deprogramming, which is when All
right, okay. I think we're gonna have to take a break soon, but the point is this. I've got 2 minutes. I think anybody who didn't. I mean, look at if I don't know how to say this and not sound insulting, but it's like any producer, any television producer would have looked at the 5 hours of material that I have of you, Stuart Swerdlow, and Preston B. Nichols talking about the Montauk Project, and cut it. Very 70% of it would have ended up the way that I did it, because that was the best stuff. I mean. And I want to get into in the next couple segments. We'll talk about meeting up with Stuart. We'll talk about meeting up with Preston, and we'll talk about in the last segment going out to Montauk with you. But
what? You really like the sexual deprogramming?
No. No. I think that's the story. I think that the story is not that there was this huge, this huge project going on in an underground base with alien races and a reptoid character who insults Preston to his face. And I mean, it's like I have a hard time believing that. I have an easy time believing that this is some kind of closeted homosexual fantasy. That I have an easy time believing. As I was saying, in the parallel dimension theory of this, it's like, well, yeah, that's all good and fine. But what my senses showed me was going on was something, shall we say, of an entirely different sort. That perhaps, just perhaps, Preston and Co. were using conspiracy theory for ulterior motives. And on that note, we're going to take a break, but I'm going to let you have your say when we come back.
Very well.
After these messages, so stay tuned to the Infinity Factory. All right, we're back on the Infinity Factory talking with Chica Bruce about the Montauk project, and I wanted to give a shout out to the MVD crew from Vienna for the interesting videography that we've got going on in the background.
Very
It looks amazing. It's psychedelic.
Love it.
So before we went to the break, I sort of was monopolizing the conversation a
Yes.
bit, and I wanted to give you a chance, because I know you were just bursting.
Yes, I was.
So
Well,
it's all yours.
this is what I have to say, is that, like Australian Aborigines and Native American shamans and quantum physicists and, theoretical mathematicians or whatever, they can all talk about parallel universes until the cows come home, and it's fine and dandy. But somebody without fancy ethnicity or math to hide behind is immediately labeled schizophrenic by you and by the consensus, whatever Western conventional civilization we live in. And all I'm saying is that what this is about is it's about experience. It's like experience. And so I'm just standing up for the people who are experiencing this stuff, and I just think it's fascinating. I'm not trying to
who claim they are, because I think that
But
if
the
you were,
thing is, they're all unrelated, and the stories converge, and it's a hell of a lot more than what you're saying. You're not looking at the information, okay? You're ignoring information, or you're selectively, hearing stuff.
all right, okay, all right. Stuart Swerdlow says on camera,
Yes.
on camera, that he was sent back in time through a vortex, an interdimensional vortex
Yes.
that was created by a sexually aroused psychic.
And two particle accelerators. Yeah.
Okay, and particle accelerators, and which, of course, there is no physical evidence for that these things
Well,
exist.
Brookhaven exists.
Okay, but these
Yeah,
chairs,
that's one.
these chairs may or may not. Anyways,
Yeah.
he says on camera and in his book, and in Preston's book as well, because the Stan Campbell character in Preston's
Stuart.
books is
Okay.
Stuart Swerdlow. But Stuart Swerdlow, in his book Montauk: The Alien Connection, and elsewhere, and on this video that will be in the Channel 4 show, claims that he was sent back in time by these rogue elements of the U.S. military and these alien groups working on an underground base in Montauk, Long Island in 1983.
That's the best story you ever heard in your life?
It's fantastic, and I'll tell you what the editor said about it in a second. He claims he was sent back in time to assassinate Jesus Christ,
Yes.
that he couldn't do it, and that they sent his ass back a second time, and that Christ was on the cross, and he said, "I have to get vials of your blood," which I did do successfully. Hello.
That's tough. It's really tough stuff.
Okay,
I think
well,
it's like Total Recall. I don't think that I think he thinks that happened.
well, I think he thinks that happened too, but I
Yeah.
don't think that. I mean, what's that proof of?
Well, I don't
that's
know.
proof of like
MK
a lot of
Ultra.
stress.
It's a
No,
proof of
it's a
MK
lot
Ultra.
of stress. I think he was under a lot of stress at a point in his life, and I think he was watching too much science fiction at the time, and it sort of came out in a weird way, and that he's got a certain worldview that's been altered by a lot of stress. I think Stuart Swerdlow is a very nice fellow. His wife was a very nice woman. They were a very nice couple.
Yes.
And he was a great interview. When he was telling the story about being sent back in time for Christ, the editor of the piece, Josh Levin, said, there are times when you leave a cut in this long in a television show, and you look at it and you think, why am I watching this? This isn't one of those times. I mean, his story is fantastical to say the least.
Yes, it sure is.
But anyways, so you're saying to me that I'm willing to go along with other New Age types who are not involved with Montauk, that I have a prejudice just against the Montauk thing. I'm telling you, my prejudice against the Montauk thing is a result of me
listening to that
seeing
story.
with
That's
my own two eyes, just like utter insanity. It's beyond a psychosis at this point. It's like, what?
See, I think it's
It's the weirdest thing I've ever heard a human being say.
It is.
And it was but only to be
That's why I
topped
love
by
it.
what Preston said
Yes.
a mere 2 hours later.
Which was about the getting dissed by the reptile. The giant
Yes, well,
reptile.
actually, what he says is, I ask him, I say, so tell me about the underground. It's funny because I've watched these Cam originals so many times. I have this stuff completely in my head, and I also have his and Stuart's cadences down. I can do a pretty good imitation of you too, but I won't. When we're done, I'll do it. But Preston, I will imitate, and it's. At one point, I say to him, so Preston, tell me about the underground, tell me about the reptoid race that was working in the underground bunker. And he says, well, I never saw any underground, no, there was no race. There was one reptilian being. Of course, if there was one reptilian being, then he might have come from a race. But hey, that's in this case, there was. We'll leave that to that logic aside, that there was one reptilian being, and he says, and I never said 2 words to it. He goes, I was on a need-to-know basis, and wait, what does he say? I can't think exactly. He goes, well, there was one reptilian being. There wasn't a race, and it had a reptile head and a lizard skin and all that, but I never said 2 words to it. Called me a Pleiad dog, like I was a dog or something. And that's not very friendly. I mean, that's what he said. That's what he said. And he's, I mean, you know, and Vanessa was there, and she's in the booth. I mean, Vanessa, show of hands. Was that one of the freakiest things you ever heard a human being say in your life with a straight face?
It's not. Well,
she says no.
No, I've heard worse. I've heard
We're going to
worse.
say who you're hanging out with. But
Preston and others, but...
Yeah, Preston in a more inspired moment. But I mean, so I mean...
I just think it's fun. Well, let me tell you, I really do. I have so much fun with this stuff, and the thing that shocks me ongoingly about this is that you get people who don't know each other's stories telling the same story, and that's why I think that there's a pattern there. And the way I look at this is just sort of like who flung poo, you know? You're like, you know that joke about what is it? Anyway,
I don't know.
To me, it's just like you throw shit against the wall, and like whatever sticks forms a pattern, and that's basically I'm dealing with shit. And
yeah, I would agree. I would agree with that. But the thing is, it's like Plato's cave. If the only thing that you know is the shadows, that's your reality. And I think there's a little bit too much Jack Kirby comics that have been involved in Preston's cosmology.
I completely agree that we are dealing with shadows, and we're not dealing with the real meat. I'm the first to say that. I'm not up to proving anything, you know, it's just interesting. And I think that, again, it causes you to examine the parameters of the reality that we're generating.
Well, I think it causes you to examine their parameters.
Their parameters and your own, because, you know, when you start getting into the quantum, really try to imagine doing hyperspatial travel or, you know, really thinking about that, it really gets you to start looking at what in the world is all this anyway, you know, that they're saying that we can go subspatial or hyperspatial or parallel universes or whatever. I think it's just really interesting stuff to think about, and it just gets you outside of like whatever lock-in and you know, and whatever you got complaints about, maybe you can just sort of reassess from a different perspective, you know, and I think that's what's really cool about all this, is that it really gives you a whole other way of looking at reality. So I find that worthwhile in and of itself.
Okay, sure. I mean, it's funny, watching people's reaction to the Montauk piece on the disinformation show. I have seen the gamut of reaction going from just like, ha ha ha, just people cracking up from the minute they see Preston, who, it should be said, resembles Jabba the Hutt. A lot.
Okay.
I mean, true or false? I have
not gonna like
spontaneous
diss somebody's appearance on international
But
media.
the thing is, okay, yeah. I mean, he's you know, he claims to be from the planet Alderaan as well. So that Star Wars thing is real. Not from the planet Alderaan, but he was taken to the planet Alderaan.
Well, I really think that this is all very good evidence for MK Ultra, okay, and mind control and brainwashing.
What about just evidence for sheer and utterly unvarnished eccentricity?
Absolutely.
But that's the thing is, I think that I can go so far with it, and that's where the engine conks out. It's like, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
More than that, it's
but there's definitely proof of the Philadelphia experiment, and then the
proof. What fucking proof?
Well,
There's
I have
movie.
in my book. I have documents, naval documents that refer to the Eldridge and refer to the fiasco of the 9 crew members who were quarantined in Quantico and escaped. And no, there's some stuff, and if you want to know more about it, you're going to pick up my book.
Well, you know I'm going to pick up your book.
Yeah.
I mean, but I mean, proof. What proof? You know, Philadelphia experiment. You know, I mean, doesn't the story go that at one point the guy who wrote the script for the movie, The Philadelphia Experiment, that was produced by Mark Hamill, again of Star Wars fame, Luke Skywalker, that the screenwriter called Preston and said, you know, I made this.
I don't know this story.
I'm vague on it too, so I don't want to get too far into this. But either someone told
so
me
maybe
or I
it's
read
like a
or
weird programming thing, and maybe they're like beaming it, you know, with scalar waves into certain people's, you know, and certain people's DNA patterns resonate with the frequency, and they have these Montaukian dreams.
Okay,
I don't know what's going on.
Okay, how many Montauk experiencers have you met personally?
Personally?
Like a handful?
Yeah, probably around under 10, around 10 total.
Okay, now don't you think that this is, to me, it looks like an example, okay, here's Preston, he does these lectures, he's got these books.
Right.
Okay? Having a book can make, you know, and being behind a podium can make you seem like you're some sort of authoritative figure.
Yes.
Right? Even if you happen to be Preston. I mean, frankly, you know, I mean, no offense, but he is an extremely eccentric individual in appearance alone.
Yes.
He's very, very fat, and he's very odd, and he moves his head around in a strange way, and he talks weird. And he looks like fucking Jabba the Hutt. I mean, the end. I mean, it's true. It's true. Everybody says that.
Whatever.
You don't have to agree. You don't have to agree with it.
That's how I feel when I see this footage played back, you know, of myself. So whatever. I mean,
well, you don't look like Jabba the Hutt, do you? I don't think. Okay, so I guess we're gonna have to take another break. So
okay.
We're gonna keep diving into this Montaukian madness when we come back with Chica Bruce. So stay logged on here to the Infinity Factory. I, the assassin, chosen by the Mad Queen, I, the murderer of the world, shall in my fury murder myself. I shall cut out my heart, take it into my joined hands, and walk towards the sun without stopping until I fall down dead. I have cut out my heart, I am walking. Towards the sun, I am faltering, I am falling down dead. Antidote to common poisons, call the physicians at once, give the antidote in good quantity. Or hashish, cold douches, ammonia inhaled, artificial respiration, stimulants, watch circulation and respiration. Keep patient awake. It is the afternoon of the same day, and I am on the Orient Express. I remember only the seawall slipping towards the sea, and the whistle from the locomotive, and the sharp color of the sun.
You are returning to the world of familiar things.
The United States. But now for a moment, let's dwell on the activities of the Illuminati in the United States. In 1826, one Captain William Morgan decided it was his duty to cleanse the body of negativity. Experience that rising from the floor and moving up through this expanded consciousness of the body is a violent transmuting flame. And you can experience this flame beginning to radiate out through the body. And wherever the flame moves, the negative emotions of anger, fear, jealousy, and hate are being consumed and transmuted into the higher vibrations of love and unconditional acceptance.
Okay, we are back on the Infinity Factory, and I'm talking with Chica Bruce about things Montaukian.
Yes.
And I guess that probably this is probably going to be the beginning of the second part of the show for anybody watching this on television. So just to recap, Chica and I went out to Montauk, Long Island, and we spoke with Preston B. Nichols, the author of the several of the Montauk Project books, and also Stuart Swerdlow, who wrote the 6th Montauk Project book. And I interviewed Chica, and we're talking about a piece that's going to air. It's the first segment of the Disinformation series that's probably, I guess, going to start in September on British television on Channel 4. The Montauk Project purports to be a massive experiment in mind control, teleportation, time travel that was allegedly taking place in an disused Air Force base, decommissioned Air Force base in Montauk Point, Long Island, where rogue elements of the U.S. military, several different kinds of alien races, and according to Preston B. Nichols, one reptilian being who was rude to him worked. And I'm saying that, like, the participants in this, who I met, were, as I've said in the last segments, the most marginal individuals. Well, Preston, not necessarily Stuart, but the most marginal individuals that I've met.
Well, you're talking about one guy,
life.
the most marginal individual.
All right, let's call it for what it is. Preston is a very strange guy, and the way that the piece ends basically is I feel like just again, anybody who would have watched this would come to the conclusion that this is this made-up thing. It's like he's a fat fibber who has made up this thing that he's gotten other people to be involved in. Not like an intentional cult leader, but like somebody who told a story, found a few people who were willing to listen to him, and a sort of. Again, I don't want to say it's a cult because I don't think that's what his agenda is. I think it's just like there are other people who believe this, so it's kind of like a Dungeons and Dragons game that got really out of hand. That's to me is you know, it's like that's.
I can totally see that.
You know, I mean,
can totally see that, and I bet you. I think that for some people who are, you know, get themselves involved in this stuff, that's certainly the case.
Well, okay, Chica, you on camera.
Yes.
Talked about two young men, men, not over the age of 18.
Yeah.
Should be pointed out.
Well, one was 19.
Well, yeah, but
Yeah.
I mean, but they're of legal age,
Yes.
age of consent. So there's no issues involving that
Yes.
kind of thing.
Correct.
But we need to be clear about that. But that they were. Their memories had been implanted
Yes.
and deprogrammed, and they'd had their minds scrambled by some supposedly again some kind of mind control and time travel thing that they were not supposed to remember, and that in order to help them, they had to be deprogrammed.
Yes.
Now that deprogramming, which is called has been referred to variously as tantric massage. Reichian techniques,
Yes.
and everybody knows what that
What
means.
Reichian-
I mean, it's like I mean, the heavy on symbolism there. I mean, please, it's talking about orgone energy, i.e., sexual energy, and sort of the idea that these men were sort of entranced in their original programming.
Yes.
That they were deprogrammed in the same manner
Yes.
by
that's,
this Jabba the Hutt.
That was the
character
theory
we're
that the way
referring
to undo what had been done to them needed to get them back into the same state, and
that it was a sexual thing.
well, I mean, they were programmed in an, you know,
State of arousal.
Yeah, state of it was like subliminally programmed in a state of arousal. And
There is some truth to that kind of thing. I mean,
it's true, and it works, and it is a thing.
Yeah.
It's bona fide. It's just, and so you can see that was the thinking behind it. And yeah, you could look at it and you could call it a weirdo homo jerk-off cult too. I mean,
the Montauk Project may indeed be a big circle jerk, is what.
Well.
You have to be willing to admit that.
Yeah, I think that there's like
you have
there
to go.
could be elements of that, but I don't consider Stuart Swerdlow to be party to anything of the kind, or Duncan Cameron.
Wait. Stuart Swerdlow writes in his book.
Yeah.
The Reichian therapy is his term, and he says that I'm not quoting him from memory, but he says that the deprogramming was rather invasive.
Yes.
And that he felt that it was too invasive.
Yeah.
And felt uncomfortable and wished to
right. But what
and
I'm
also someone else who was interviewed for this piece, who will remain nameless now, says that Duncan was involved and that he feels very ashamed of himself for having been a party to the deprogramming.
Yes. Well, yeah.
But I'm just saying that contradicts what you just said. I mean, that they were involved in this stuff.
Well, no, Duncan. Also was deprogrammed that way, and what I'm trying to tell you is that it's not that they harbored secret desires to be, jacked off by Preston Nichols, and that's what I'm trying to tell you. It's not really a circle jerk, homo like tantric massage cult.
And yet,
yes,
that's to me that seems to be the only way to explain the whole thing, or that it got out of hand, that it wasn't originally that perhaps, but that it became that because
Well, right now, I mean, Preston isn't deprogramming anyone. I think he's laying low with that activity.
Yeah, but if he did, because the Suffolk County sheriff is probably going to visit his house and say, "What's this with the jerk off of the Satan teens?"
Yeah, the Satan teens, exactly.
Okay, so so let's get to that. I mean, you talk about a young man,
Satanist,
who was a Satanist,
yeah.
and just to, I mean, I'll ask the question. I'm picturing sort of like a heavy metal kind of kid.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
correct.
Now, you knew this guy.
Yes, I did. Yes.
Okay, never mind.
No, he had grown up in foster homes and in juvie halls and in mental institutions his whole life, and he went to one of these Montauk lectures and began to believe,
and it just crawled up in his pants, and he decided that he was a Montauk boy. And the next
he's
thing,
fine getting deprogrammed. So I'm thinking this was inappropriate. The poor guy had already spent his whole life in institutional facilities, and the last thing he needed was to be exposed to
This unorthodox therapy.
Exactly. So I had some problems with
Right,
that.
but here's the thing. It's like, okay, we're talking about you personally, and I mean, you are intimately involved with this in terms of being a Montauk participant.
I was writing a book about this guy, but then it just got too weird, and I also didn't think it was in his best interest for me to continue with the project.
Okay, well,
so I was like, you know what, this
good.
poor kid needs to just like heal his life, and so that's why I backed off.
Okay, but let's count up the individuals who have been deprogrammed.
Yeah.
Okay, if you've met personally about 10, there's probably 6 who have been deprogrammed.
The ones that I've personally met that have been deprogrammed in this manner.
Yes.
And I know that there are more because I've met some that.
And as Preston called it, very controversial.
Yes.
Manner.
Let me see. 1, 2, 3, 4. I know personally 5.
Half of them have been involved in this. I mean, don't you think that there's something to be said for the fact that this could be
There's definitely been at least 20 or so
who have been deprogrammed
this way. Yes.
I mean, for fuck's sake. I mean, you tell me. Is this a conspiracy theory, or is it the conspiracy to get a little action? I mean, Preston doesn't seem like he has that much success with the babes, if he's interested at all.
Right.
He hasn't attempted to deprogram you.
Correct.
Do you think he's going to?
No.
He appeared to have absolutely no interest in talking with you or Vanessa, and you're both very attractive women.
That's correct. He doesn't seem to care, and that's something I've noticed with other Montaukians.
Yeah,
they don't really seem to even.
Not that in of itself is a thing, but I'm just saying it's like there's this homoerotic element.
There's a range of response that I'm used to from men, and I don't get the usual response from them.
But I did.
You did? He was looking you up and down?
Well, he was trying to feel your aura. No, he says, I say to him, he says at one point that he's able to recognize the Montauk boys by scanning. He goes, I do it close on through hand scans, unquote.
Yes.
Scanning their aura and their frequency.
Yes.
And he says it's to find a certain kind of code. He said it's almost like your aura shows that you have Hollerith code. The old mainframe programming language, that you can read this kind of code. And he was saying, like, well, you can't just pick this up from operating your PC, because it's not even coded that way, but like as if it would bleed through or something like that if you've been programmed.
Well, that's based on the idea, which I don't know if you're familiar with it or not, that your DNA is like a physical expression of your mind pattern, or it's the whole frequency of your soul and your being and your essence.
There's a lot to be said for that. It's not just the soul; it's the history of our race.
Yeah,
or,
sure.
It's our ancestry.
But it's also like as your consciousness is locked into that, and and so basically there's an energetic signature that's readable to psychics.
Right. So but let's face it. I mean, psychics have throughout history, I'm sure you'll agree with this, built people with their psychic abilities or their claims of psychic abilities. I think, once again, this is a guy.
Non-psychics have built people with no psychic claims whatsoever. What the hell are you saying?
I'm saying that I saw Preston, I've read his books, I listened to him talk about this, and I have talked to you. I've read Stuart Swerdlow's book, and I heard it from your friend, who I want to get into in a second, who told us the great story about going to the party with you, Zamian, and Morgan, this guy. And I'm getting the thing. But what I saw was somebody who offering a very elaborate methodology. It's sort of like a Star Trek fan's come on.
Yeah, but if it was
homosexual,
true, but it was really about that. I mean, because the participants weren't really into it. They're not gay and they're not into that.
And yet they were
hoodwinked.
Yeah, hoodwinked. They were jerked off by this dude. Come on. Anyways, we're gonna take another break, and I'm Richard Betzker. You're watching The Infinity Factor, and we're talking with Chica Bruce, paranormal investigator, about the Montauk Project. So stick around. I'm sure it's only gonna get better.
When you will stay in this higher level of consciousness, functioning normally and naturally for an indefinite period of time, and you may continue meditating. At this point, I am leaving.
Okay, so back on the Infinity Factory, we're talking with Chica Bruce, and wrapping up on this whole Montauk thing. It's been kind of a debriefing session, hasn't it?
Yes.
I mean, We also went out to the base, and you and Vanessa went out there on your own, and then I went out and saw it, and it's there, and it's true to say that there are bunkers. It's a state park, and there are lots of hazardous waste signs up, and there's an antenna there.
The antenna was also repaired recently. There's evidence of that, and that's sort of interesting in and of itself for a non-operational facility to have a repaired radar antenna. I mean, that's interesting.
Sure.
So that's what I have to say. I mean, I think that Montauk is more than just a homosexual masturbatory cult, and I think that it begs your attention. I think, and
I gave it attention.
Yes. No. Well, basically, I think that this book that I'm coming out with is grounded, and it's not trying to prove anything, and it's not certainly only about Montauk. It's about basically a body of conspiracy stuff, like going back to the Dulce Wars, which I don't know if you've ever heard of, and the Philadelphia Experiment and stuff. And it's just a new way to look at this information. And
have you been reading Grant Morrison's Invisibles comic?
No.
Well, it's all about this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Because Dulce has been coming up in a lot. Like in the Area 51.
Right.
It's great. Everybody should read the Invisibles. Best comic I've ever seen.
Cool. Well, I just think it's I think it's totally worthwhile reading and thinking material.
Okay. So in summing up, I mean, I would say that you say that it's not what I say it is.
Right. I don't think you don't know the least of it, and you're just reacting to the jerk off thing.
Well, I was going to say I think the least of it. I mean, yeah, you could say that, but it's. I mean, I was there. I mean, I was there. I was just going to say, you say that I'm wrong when I say it's this sort of, these overgrown Trekkie types who had a Dungeons and Dragons sort of scenario go way out of hand, right? But I think it needs to be said is that the Suffolk County Sheriff is aware of this kind of stuff, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so let's agree to disagree. I say that it's a masturbatory fantasy of some marginal individuals.
And
I say a very strange belief system, and you say that it's not.
No.
Let's agree to disagree on this.
Very good.
What is your newest obsession with this Ong's hat thing that you have brought to my attention? Now, Ong's hat, by the way, is there's information on Ong's hat, ONG''S hat, Ong's hat, on the deoxy.org website that our friend Dimitri does. So.
Yeah, and it's another time travel story, and the reason why I like it so much is because it doesn't have any of this sort of slobbering worship of military intelligence and particle accelerators and Nazis and aliens,
reptoid beings,
or any of that.
No, there's no jerking off.
Any of that homosexual jerking off, cults, repressed homo-closeted thing happening. It's completely free and clear and devoid of all this.
Is that right?
To my knowledge. It'll probably rear its ugly head.
This could be a very rude awakening for you when you find out about the truth of Ong's hat. But
no, I think that there were some female homosexuals involved at one point in the founding of this. It was a cult of just the most, talk about marginal. See, that's what I like. I guess I like marginal, and just like dropout quantum physicists and heroin dealers and hydroponic pot growers and
my kind of people.
Totally.
Well, I mean, admittedly, this does sound a bit more
sexy.
That might be the word, but I mean, the Montauk Party was about as sexy as a mold growth on your bathroom floor. So, wait, what did you say, Vanessa? Fragrant. There's less spam involved.
Yeah.
Whatever. I mean, again,
we're gonna go out to Ong's hat.
I gotta stop with this Montauk stuff.
Yeah, it's all over now.
It's gonna get me nowhere. Back to Ong's hat.
Yes, we're gonna go down there, and we're gonna have fun.
Well, here's what I think we should do. Is that Doug Stone, who's producer, does an independent producer, he's done a lot of stuff for Sundance. Is that you and he should go down and figure out. First of all, find out where Ong's hat was. Ong's hat, incidentally, was a town in New Jersey, and there's a book that you can buy on Amazon called Forgotten Towns of New Jersey.
Yeah.
And there's a website as well. If you look up Ong's hat, you will find info on this. And I think if you go to the deoxy.org site, it links to all this stuff as well. But it was a place. It was what's the legend? It's this guy Ong threw his hat up in the air and it didn't come back down, and they don't know what happened to it.
Yep.
It went into a parallel dimension.
Exactly.
Or got caught in a tree or something.
Exactly. And that's these people claim to be traveling to parallel universes that are empty and devoid of Nazis and aliens.
Right.
Which is nice, a nice switch, a nice change from the Montaukian version of what's going on in the parallel universes. So I would like to see if I can track down some of these folks, because my publisher is in touch with some of them, and
Cool.
and we'll see what happens, where it takes us.
It'll be just
See if we can get the
further-
camera through an interdimensional portal. That'd be very cool.
that would make damn good television.
Yeah,
Chica.
sure would.
So and I think you and after that, you know that they're going to have to give you your own show.
I hope
The
so.
Adventures of Chica Bruce, Time Travel Babe. So thanks once again for being on the
Thank
show.
you.
It was very amusing.
Yes. Charmed, I'm sure.
Yeah, playing tennis with you. wait, one last thing. What did the guy that what did he say to you that your cheese had
My cheese done slipped off my cracker.
And on that note, people, this has been Richard Metzger. This is the Infinity Factory. We've been talking with Chica Bruce, author of the forthcoming book.
Yes, the Philadelphia Experiment Murder, an insider's look at Montauk.
There you go.
You gotta have it.
Mm-hmm. And Ong's hat.
And Ong's hat's next.
Okay, so cheerio.
Ciao.
Into this mystery of mysteries.